Thought for the day, and here's the thought. I was thinking about faith, and I was thinking about this notion that when Jesus says your faith has saved you, and I think, well, how does that work? I don't think faith has anything to do with belief. I don't think it has anything to do with our allegiance or adherence to a set of beliefs or a belief system. I don't think it has anything to do with that. I think it has to do with a choosing to be anchored in love, to be tethered to a sustaining God, and not even the least bit shaky about our own unshakable goodness. That's what it means to be faithful. And so it's not about being optimistic that everything will turn out. Nah. It's about being positive in the power of your own love. Or as the great Steve Avalos says, positive vibes on a Tuesday. So I was at Pelican State Prison on Pelican Bay Prison on Thursday, and so I said a mass in the A yard and in the B yard, and then I walked at SAG. And people used to say of it that only the people who were housed there were the worst of the worst. They always said, and several of you have been residents there, and. So I went to the SHU, to the security housing, and spent a lot of time there, and they force you to wear a safety vest. I don't know what they think somebody's going to do to me. But I even went into a classroom, and there were 9 students in this classroom. Each one was in his own individual cage. And they couldn't have been more gracious or welcoming, but you get to a point where suddenly you realize everybody is finding this normal, that every student in the class is in a cage. So then I walked the rows, and the chaplain, Sam, really good guy, would precede me, and I could hear him to each cell. Father Greg is here, Father G, the founder of Homeboy Industries. So then I'd step up to the cell after I finished yelling through a door at somebody, and then I'd go to this guy, and big, huge guy, Latino, covered in tattoos, and he goes, "You're Father G?" I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Huh." And I said, "What?" "Well, you look thinner on TV," he said. So I thanked him for pointing that out and suggested that maybe it's because the last time he saw me on TV was 20 years ago. He'd go, "I bet that's it," he said. So I go say Mass at the A yard, and the chaplain has been given a camera just like that by the warden, and so he has permission to take pictures of this event. And so after the Mass, all the homies, they all want pictures, so it's with one guy, with 2 guys, 8 guys. And there's a guy named Louie who has tattoos all over his face, a kind of a goofy, funny, charming guy who has all day, won't ever go leave that prison alive. I suppose he's what people mean when they say the worst of the worst. And so he photobombs every damn picture. He's in every picture. He's laughing, and I turn around, what the hell? And he's in every picture, and he's just enjoying photobombing every damn picture. So as we're walking to the B yard, I'm telling the chaplain, Sam, about this guy, Louie, the photobomber, and we're laughing. And he tells me this story, that several months before, they had a concert at Pelican Bay, a concert pianist who had played many times in Carnegie Hall, and kind of famous and sells CDs, and says, "I want to give a concert at Pelican Bay." So Sam arranges it. He gets 200 ducated inmates, which means they have permission, they're on a list, to attend this concert. And he's kind of disappointed because only 60 show up. He goes, "Well, I'm not sure they really knew what this was going to be." So he was a little let down. The guy was going to play piano for 45 minutes and then engage them in conversation for 15, question and answer. Maybe they'll ask, what's it like to play Carnegie Hall? And he begins to play. And it's so glorious. And the music is so beautiful. And it's so magnificent that Sam looks at the faces of the 60 inmates, and they're all sobbing. They're all crying. All of them have their faces in their hands. And he looks at the guards, and the guards are turning their heads away, and they're discreetly flicking tears. Everybody is reduced to tears. It's so beautiful. So then he finishes and he says, anybody have any comments or questions or anything? And nobody does, because they're just undone emotionally. And then Louis, the photobomber, stands. And he has a question, but he's sobbing so hard that he can hardly speak. And so he can only utter one word. Why? And the concert pianist begins to cry, and he says, because you are deserving of beauty. You are worthy of it. And there is no difference between me and you. And that's what faithful looks like. It's about being anchored in love, tethered to a sustaining God, and not even one bit shaky about your own unshakable goodness. That is the faith that will save you. That's what Jesus means. It's not about belief. It's not about optimism. It's about choosing today positive vibes on a Tuesday. Thank you. Gary Powers, lead us in prayer.
That one.